Hello everyone, it's me Fildo. So today I'll be talking about followers, or the ones that I deem worthy of companionship, I guess you could say, and how to equip them or what to equip them with. As I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube lately, and not lately, but like in general, that just doesn't understand this, I don't feel like. They either are the typical how to make an OP character in Skyrim shtick, where you just use the restoration bug to give your companions a bajillion HP and a bunch of everything, like just make them unkillable essentially with a glitch, which I find incredibly dumb. I do not like that sort of character making. I think it's, not interesting at all. If you make the character invulnerable, it doesn't fucking matter anyway. However, if you are one of those people that want to have a character that is as strong as can be, or at least in my opinion, as strong as needs to be, and still be in the limits of the game without any game-breaking bugs, because the restoration glitch is a game-breaking bug. Not that it's hard to break Skyrim, it takes very little effort. So we're back on the level 81 character, the one with all skills at 100. And I'll be showing and talking about a few things. So let's start with what follower to pick. There are a couple that are worth considering for a high level or max level character. I have my sight on characters that are level or can get to level 50 and above. When I finish a character, I am about level 40 to 60, somewhere around there. And at that point, a level 50 companion or follower, I may very often exchange those two words, companion and follower. If I talk about the Companions Guild, I will say Companions Guild. But yeah, speaking of the Companions Guild, the first 3 followers that might be worth a look are, well, the 3 companions that you can choose in the Companions Guild. The 3 that are actually worth talking about, which is Alea the Huntress, Farkas and Vilkas. They all scale to level 50 and nothing more. They are completely fine. If you can pick them up, just go ahead. For early game, they are really simple to get. You just need to do a few quests for them, and you're done. They are all... Farkas and Vilkas are heavy armor users, and Alea the Huntress is a light armor archer. I don't remember Farkas or Vilkas which one is two-handed or one-handed, but you can just look at them and see what weapon they're carrying. Though I never use them in late game, as I find their dialogue completely and utterly stupid. They don't say much at all, really. But they're fine starting companions. You don't need to replace them if you don't need to or want to. Then we jump to the Dark Brotherhood, where there are not really anyone until you are at the end of the questline, where you can get Cicero, which he stops at level 50. Again, I don't like Cicero, and you also need to complete the whole questline to get him. I think he's annoying, but some people really love him, so Cicero is here. And then you have Dark Brotherhood initiates. They scale to level 100, which, if you didn't know, is higher than a max level character. Well, max level is 256 or something like that to have every single skill point, but a character at level 100 in all stats will be 81. So Dark Brotherhood initiates at 100 may as well just be infinite for the normal player. So they're fine, and they deal a lot of damage, so they're pretty good. Then we jump to the DLCs, which have, and yeah, I don't recommend any of the followers from the Magic Guild, the Winterhold. They all stop at level 30, and mages in general are pretty weak, except for 2, which I'll get to. You have the Dawn Guard, which would be Serana, Celian, or Celan, Durak, which is this guy, and Ingyard, I think is how the name's pronounced. They are, so Serana scales to 50, the other 3 scales to infinite, which means they can go to whatever level you are. Let's start with Serana. Everyone loves Serana. She has good dialogue and stuff, so that's cool. But her skills are as a necromancer, well, vampire of course, but she is a necromancer. She will resurrect enemies in battle, and she's a mage, so she'll spam cold spells and drain spells and such in battle, which is pretty cool. As I said, magic spells are pretty weak, but it's mostly okay. Celan, or Celan, Kalan, whatever, is a one-handed warrior. My favorite one-handed tank is that guy, or girl. Well, that's the guy, yeah. Durak is an archer, so if you want an archer that scales to infinite, he is your man. He is also pretty cool. Ingyard is a female that uses two-handed weapons, which is quite rare, as if I remember right. No, there are actually a couple. Anyhow, she also scales to infinite and uses two-handed weapons, so if you want a two-handed tank, go ahead. Then we have Dragonborn, where you have 2. We have Freya, who scales to infinite, which is also a, well, she is a one-handed warrior type, but she uses dual wield instead of sword and shield. So if you give her two melee weapons, she will use both, which makes her an incredible damage dealer, as one-handed weapons are the ones that have the highest DPS. And then you have, of course, Teldrin Zero, which sadly only scales to 60, which is still better than half this list, but he's not infinite. He is a spell sword. He uses conjuration and fire magic, and also a sword, and he's quite proficient. He does run into battle, so he's also really good. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about equipment, as I've seen a couple of videos that infuriate me to no end. First off, they use the restoration glitch. Second off, the enchantments they give to their follower does not even work for the follower. Sorry about that. There is a video that's quite new, like 15 days old or so, which shows the character, the guy making the video, giving his follower about like gloves that does 7,000 extra melee damage. That does nothing for a follower. They will not get a single fucking point of increased damage from percentage increased damage. For one-handed, two-handed, archery, nothing. It does nothing. The only caveat to this is these masks. I feel like they deal increased damage, as the shock spell damage increased by 25 stat is not actually an increase to damage. It gives just an extra level to this perk. It gives you augmented shock 3. Well, if you have 2. So it might work. Do not quote me on that. I have not tested it fully. But it could work, though I don't recommend it, as I'll get to in a moment. Unless you just want the hat, because it's a cool hat. The enchantments that do work, not the perks, are as follows. Fortify carry weight, though it's useless, it does work. I'll get to that right now. So I say it's useless for the simple reason that 1, your followers have a lot of carry weight to begin with. And second off, if they have met their carry weight cap, a thing you can do is, I almost took all. If you find an item on the ground and you want that, instead of you picking it up, opening their inventory and telling them to carry something, You click, I need you to do something. And then you tell them to pick up the item. That will overwrite their carry weight limit. So is carry weight useful? Sure, I guess, but it sometimes doesn't even work, so heyo. It's buggy. I don't recommend it. Then we have Fortify Health and Health Regeneration. Fortify Health, great, does exactly what it says on the tin, it gives them more health. Health Regen is stupid, as it only increases regeneration outside of combat, and thus making it pretty much null and void, not even worth thinking about. Fortify Heavy Armor, Light Armor does exactly what you think it does, it increases their light armor and heavy armor level, which is really good for when you want a specific looking armor set on a guy or girl that doesn't reach their stat requirements. Well, not requirements, but they if they like light armor better and you want them to wear heavy armor, if you enchant that heavy armor with Fortify Heavy Armor, it's way easier to make them use that armor. You see what I mean? Which is, I'll get to this in a bit, but which is why, for example, yeah, on my gloves I have increased light armor skill. Just makes pretty much every single character I give this armor to willing to equip it, even though they actually prefer heavy armor. And I use light armor as I find it not cooler, I actually prefer heavy armor, but it is lighter, of course, which also just alleviates the fucking Fortify carry weight problem. Fortify Magic and Magic Regeneration does exactly what you think. Stamina Regen does exactly what you think. No just outside of combat stuff. Fortify Unarmed Damage does work, as it is not a percentage increase to something, it's a flat number. Is it useful? Absolutely not. They won't punch anything, so don't. Muffle works, though I would not understand why you would do that, as Muffle is for stealth. If you're stealthing, don't have a follower with you. Thank you. You have Fire, Frost, and Shock Resistance does exactly what you think it does. Poison Resist does exactly what you think it does. Resist Magic is kind of interesting, as they do not have a resistance cap like the player does. The player has an 80% resistance cap, meaning if you have on your ring, on your amulet, let's say you got 75% on each of them, resistance to magic, it would stop at 80. The rest of the resistance is useless. Followers don't have that problem. They can get resistance capped at 100%, making them immune to damage from any element. Fire, frost, lightning, even poison, and I think some diseases, or most diseases really, which is pretty cool, though it's quite difficult to do without any glitches. They can also use water breathing, though it's pretty useless, as one, how often are you in water? Second off, they can't even die from drowning, or drown at all. It will just stop them from going up and breathing and going down again. And then you have water walking, which, yeah, they can walk on water now. I don't see the point. So back to what I was thinking about when it came to their equipment. And luckily, weapons doesn't matter. Give them anything. All the weapon enchants work. So I'll show you here what I use for armor for pretty much all of my followers. You can, of course, change this up to your preference, but most of this is pretty much exactly what you want. So for chest piece, go for health and stamina, or health and magicka. I don't really see much of a point in the magicka one. I mean, of course, for this guy, he doesn't need it at all. He doesn't use magic. Though I just reuse the same armor for all my followers because I don't really care that much. Though, if you have increased stamina, they will power attack more often, or not more often, but, you know, hopefully get an extra attack in. Or they will be better at following you, which followers in Skyrim are notably bad at. So yeah, health and stamina. That is crafting shoes. For the boots, I go for double resist, as high as you can get. For me, it was 49% of fire and frost. As I said, if you max out magic resist, you don't need this at all. In that case, put on stamina regen, or stamina and fucking carry weight. I normally put on a circlet, which does work for most followers, because I like to see their face. As you can see, it has Magicka and Magic Regen, for the simple reason that that is the only 2 stats on headgear that works for these guys. If you don't want to use something like a Dragon's Priest mask, as there is one that gives 20% resistance to fire, frost, and shock, which I would recommend putting on, which almost makes them immune to elemental damage. Though I don't have it because I don't care for it. This guy has never even gone down once. So yeah, give him that. Gauntlets, as I said, light armor and magic. Which is why, since 2 of the pieces have to have magic on them, there's no reason to put that on the chest piece. That's why I chose stamina. But yeah, light armor, so that everyone I give this to will use it. And magic, because that's the only thing that this has going for it. Then we have the necklace, which is the last resistance and and magic resist, which I now have 50% resistance to shock, fire, and frost, and another 20% to all of them, and then I chose health and magic resist again, which makes it 40% resistance to magic. So if a fireball hits this guy for 100 damage, it will first get cut in half. Let's say half. I know it's 49, but let's say it's 50 for my sanity's sake. The fireball hits, it goes from 100 to 50, and that 50 gets reduced by 40% again. Meaning it goes down to like 20%, 20 damage or so. Right? No, 30 damage. So a 100 damage fireball now does 30 damage to this guy. And yeah, this is the armor that I would give to pretty much anyone. The armor ratings for these 3 pieces, 100 plus 100 plus 200. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 530-ish armor, which is not correct. It is actually a bit more than that. But yeah, about 500 and something armor rating, which is almost to the cap of armor, which is like 567 or something like that. But yeah, which makes him take about 75% reduced melee damage, about, well, 70-ish% reduced magic damage from all sources. He has an additional 130 health, and, you know, the extra stamina and magic. This is what you do. Of course, your values may vary a tiny bit. As you can see, my headpiece has 72 magic for some reason, whilst everything else is 65. That's just because I made this before I got the enchanter armor thing. For weapons, however, I do something different. I have a few things. Sorry. For pure damage, this is what I normally go for. It is the chaos damage enchant and shock damage. Fun fact about the shock damage, or dragons actually, is that they will land when their magicka pool gets reduced to a certain point. I don't know how much it is. I don't know if it's empty or if it's like 20% left or 50% left. But when their magicka pool gets drained to a certain point, they will land. meaning that this guy, if he shoots a dragon enough, if it doesn't just outright die, it will land, because it has lost a lot of magicka. Which is why I also like, instead of having the triple element chaos enchant, just have absorb or damage magicka. I mean, damage magicka and shock also makes dragons land a lot faster. Though mostly he damages it enough for it to land on its own anyway, so it's not really that useful. But this is just pure damage. If you want to have a soul trap enchant, first off, fiery soul trap is better. But if you don't have that, as I don't, remember to have it as a 2-second duration. For some reason, it doesn't always trap a soul when it's on 1 second. At least it didn't for me, so I changed it to 2, and now it works fine. And then we have these two weapons, which have paralyze for 1 second. You might say that, wait, paralyze for 1 second, what the fuck? They're just gonna, stop their attack. No. Paralyze for 1 second lasts an insanely long time, which is great. Second off, if it procs, the enemy will freeze and kind of unattach from the ground, making them fall over and have to stand back up again. In that time, he will most likely have hit them again with a paralyzing proc, and they'll fall again. And thus, paralyze on one-handed weapons is great. On two-handed, however, it's pretty much completely fucking useless, as the attack speed is so slow. It works, it's fine, one-handed is just way better. On two-handed, I'd go for the damage route. For any one-handed character, one of their weapons is always the paralyze. Because, why not? And yes, I don't have any extra enchants on these, because I don't use followers for pure damage, except for this guy, because it's really fun to give them high damage arrows. Speaking of, if this guy has a bow, you need to supply arrows, or bolts in this case. So I just have 500 bolts or so. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is hopefully understandable enough. And yeah, that's how you make a perfectly good follower without any glitches, without any exploits, and have them be base game viable. This guy can and will kill dragons on his own with that bow and arrow, with that bolt, fucking crossbow, and that armor set. There's no reason, no need to do anything else. Okay? Are we good? Thank you. See you guys next time.